Cisco Umbrella, Secure Web Gateway, Use Case WSA Proxy Chain, Internal Network ID based policies, and IP Attribution. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create an internal network. Now this internal network is going to be a subnet within our internal environment. So we'll go ahead and give it a name here. This is a /24 subnet. And we'll go ahead and select 24 here and then network and then select the network. And it's part of the external IP address that we've added previously in the previous video from an external ID perspective. So it's part of that external IP that's coming out of the WSA as an example. It's part of that network. So that's that policy that we made previously. You do need this policy regardless. So this policy is going to allow us to be able to first decrypt the packet so we can get the internal IP address. Once we do that, we're going to go ahead and now rerun it against policy, and it's going to hit this policy that we're creating now after it went through that initial policy. So we're going to enable HTTPS here. Even though we're going to do localized HTTPS, I turn this on anyway if we turn on additional mechanisms like AnyConnect later on. We'll go ahead and add a security category here or security policy here that's specific to that network. And we'll go ahead and create that, and we'll check everything here except the custom block URL list that was based on domains previously. We'll go ahead and hit next. For content security, let's add a new category here. We'll give it again a descriptive name, and let's just put on let's see here. We're going to be a little lighter than the policy that we made in the previous video. So let's go ahead and select proxy, anonymizer, and pornography. And go ahead and hit next. We're not going to do anything around tenant controls. We won't do anything around application, but you could. We don't worry about destination lists in this case. Threat grid will enable, and we'll go ahead and leave file controls out of scope for this test. So we've got this first policy. We'll give it a name. Remember, this first policy won't be hit initially. The first policy to get hit is going to be the network based on external identity first in order to be able to determine the IP address of the internal host, and then that policy number one gets reevaluated because it's higher up. So it does a whole reevaluation once it does that initial decrypt for that network external identity. Okay, we're at activity search. So there's another piece to this. In order for this to work, we actually have to decrypt on the WSA. So let's go ahead and enable decrypt on the WSA. We'll generate a CSR. Go ahead and generate that. And I'm going to sign this. I will show you exactly how to do this with Microsoft CA. So we'll go ahead and download the certificate signing request. Once we generated the key, there we go. We can see the name there. We'll go ahead and jump into, after we copy this out, we'll jump into Active Directory, cert serve. We'll go ahead and request advanced certificate. We'll post that or paste that in, and we'll grab a subordinate certificate authority. We'll go ahead and download a base 64, and we can see here it's called cert new bracket 2. We'll go ahead and grab that file now, and we'll upload. And if it's successful, signed certificate successfully uploaded. Perfect. And so the good thing about this is that the users, if you've deployed your root CA, your enterprise root CA, part of GPO to your users, they're not going to experience any warnings or anything like that. That's to let you know that we're going to go ahead and submit this. There's a change that's taking place on the box. Let's very quickly jump to decryption policy, and this is going to be pretty simple here. Now we'll go ahead and for URL filtering, we're going to basically say decrypt all. Perfect. We'll go ahead and submit this. And we're going to turn off web reputation. You could have this enabled, right? But what we're trying to do is minimize the configuration on the WSA and have most of that being driven out of Umbrella itself. So this is just more of a transport mechanism to get to Umbrella. I'm going to come back in here and let's change this to Decrypt as well. And that should give us all categories now are going to be set to Decrypt. So 109, perfect. We've got disabled web reputation, default action, decrypt. That's it. I think that's all we need to do here. Let's go ahead and commit that. And let's go back in, and this has been already done in the previous video, but I just want to call it out here. Make sure that you have X forwarding, so making sure that we get the client IP address being sent with the request, so then we can determine what policy that they should be applied to. We'll go ahead and hit commit. And I'm just downloading the CA certificate to highlight the need to make sure that that's installed on your endpoint. So again, if you had GPO, this would most likely be automatically pushed out to all your clients. Okay, everything looks good here from a configuration perspective. Let's paste this in. Remember, we're doing decrypt on the WSA, and we're also going to be doing decrypt on the Umbrella side. So we'll open up Firefox. Let's give it a try. Let's go to Google. Let's check that certificate. Now this should show the WSA. Oh, verified by FE80. Let's view certificate. And look at that, WSA. Perfect. Let's go to a proxy anonymizer site, and you can see that that's blocked by the Umbrella instance, not the WSA, because remember, we're proxy chaining here. Let's go ahead and look at this. Now we have the IP address of the requesting host. So now we have IP attribution, at least for the individual asset making the request outbound. We'll just double check that real quick. Let's do an IP config here. And we'll align that IP address up to the IP address on Umbrella. So you can see it's 112. And again, go back to Umbrella, and you can see it's 112. And so now we can build internal-based subnet policies. So this policy might be different from the 192.168.254 network. Again, not as granular as user yet, but we'll get there. Just lots of different options for you, whether you want to do it holistically, the entire network, based on IP subnet internally, and then as we move down, we'll get to user and group.